Today's video will be on what is an APA paper and what is your, here just a second, very professional, that looks smudged. What is your research survey? So an explanation of what exactly your research survey is supposed to look like. So we will start first with a slideshow. What is an APA paper? What do I want in your research survey? And this is a lesson that applies to more than just this class. In the future, when you're writing for school, you will be asked to write APA papers. In fact, you might already have been asked to write some APA papers. Hopefully this explanation will make all that clearer. I want to start off by an important thing to keep in mind anytime your teacher asks you to write something for their class. And there are two purposes to college writing. So anytime you're writing something for a class, you want to, one, demonstrate your understanding of the material. The teacher has assigned readings and has given lectures. They want, in your writing, you to show that you understood what it was that you read and what it is that they said to you. And then the second thing they want is to show that you have thought about the material, that you've put some of your own thought into it. You sort of invested some of your own mental energy, applied some intelligence, analysis, creativity to the material. So you're not just passively receiving it, you're sort of actively making it a part of, actively applying your own thinking to what it is that you've read. Now let me give you a little heads up here. Number one is more important than number two. Teachers might talk about the importance of showing your own thought, but the main thing they're looking for is demonstrating your understanding of the material. There's an anecdote I could tell about when I was an undergraduate, and I had a very disenchanting moment when I discovered this, but maybe if you come into office hours I'll tell you that story. So then, but keeping in mind that distinction there, the two things that you want to do, demonstrate your understanding and show that you've put some thought into it, this will help us answer the difference between an APA and an MLA paper. And this is something that it took me a long time to figure out, or it was a long time before I knew this. When I first started teaching here at TCC, having only done MLA as a student myself, I only assigned MLA papers, and no one told me that I was supposed to do otherwise. Now, starting about a couple years ago, the department decided that to better prepare students for writing for other classes, other kinds of classes, we should spend much more time training students on APA papers, and consequently you have this APA assignment that you're working on now. This opened a whole new world to me. I'd never done APA before, and so I had to figure out what APA was. I had thought that the only difference between an APA paper and an MLA paper was sort of a matter of appearance, that in-text citations and bibliographic entries looked different. They just looked different between the two. After some studying, though, I found out that this was not at all the case. It's much more than just looking different. When an instructor asks for an APA paper, they usually want a different kind of paper than an MLA paper. So that's what I'm about to tell you, what kind of paper they're looking for. Now I need to give you a warning here, a quick caveat, because the reality of it is very few departments use MLA. The department that uses it the most is the English department. Now, no department asks the students to do more writing than the English department, especially considering that the English department also handles composition courses. In fact, at TCC, the English department is almost entirely composition courses. There are really very few literature courses that we teach here at TCC. So just about all the other departments in the school are doing APA. Now, the thing that will make things perhaps confusing for you, I know it confuses me, is the different departments are all doing this one format. However, different departments want slightly different things from their students' writing. So what I'm about to tell you, I think, applies in general, but you might find with particular assignments that your instructor gives you in different classes, in different departments, not everything I say will apply the same way. So as a word of warning, the APA people are not nearly as consistent about what they want in their papers as the MLA people are. Perhaps this is my prejudice coming from an MLA background, but I think the APA people can be wildly inconsistent from one thing to the next. However, I think the instructions I'm about to give you will serve you in good stead in any situation. It's a good starting place for you to go. But also keep in mind that anytime you're giving a written assignment in class, you want to do what the teacher wants you to do. That's the most important thing. If we revisit the two purposes to college writing, this also is a nice way of breaking down the difference between APA and MLA paper. APA emphasizes demonstration of understanding of the material. APA people think that as a student, your main job is to research and study all the things, or many of the things, as many as you can, that have been said on the subject, all the major research on the subject, what is currently considered the most relevant research on the subject. That is your first main job. Okay? In MLA, there's more of an emphasis on showing your thought about the material. In MFA, there's more of an emphasis on critical thinking and interpretation, creativity. Now, I think, though, sometimes, again, I had personal experience with this as an undergraduate, teachers can talk as if that's what they want, but really they still want number one as the main thing. They still want your demonstration of understanding. So don't be surprised if that occurs to you. But in general, and this I think applies very much to the way the papers are written, APA is an emphasis on 1, MLA is the emphasis on 2. Okay? This is sort of a quick handy chart that I like to show. This is a good difference between the two kinds of papers. And when we take a look at the research survey sample paper, you will see exactly how this plays out. With the APA, you start with your evidence first. You assemble all the evidence that you've got, and then you bring in your thought on this. Okay, so an APA paper is front-loaded with the research, and it's back-loaded with your ideas. The MLA paper does it the opposite. Your ideas come first, and then they're backed up with evidence. When we get to the MLA papers, this happens mostly on the paragraph level. That a paragraph it begins with your idea, and then the rest of the paragraph is filled out with evidence. The paper begins with your idea. The paper, you present your main claim at the beginning of the paper. That's first. Okay, the MLA paper is structured by your ideas. The main claim in the introductory paragraph, your supporting claims, your paragraph thesis sentences that are structuring all the paragraphs. But we'll rehearse that again when we start writing MLA papers in this class. Okay, so that's the main. Okay, let me repetition the key to teaching. Let me repeat that again. So APA is evidence first, and then your ideas. That's the real crucial thing. Okay, and then this actually won't take too much longer. A couple more distinct. The slideshow is not going to take too much longer. Distinctive features of the APA. You use summary instead of quotation. There's a great de-emphasis on quotation in APA. In fact, if you read the assignment sheet carefully, which you should for the research survey, you'll see that I say no quotations. There's to be no quotation in your research survey. And there's a purpose for this. There's a reason for this. Summary is the best way of demonstrating understanding. To put something into your own words, you have to understand it. You can use a quotation without understanding. I can quote someone and I can have no idea what they meant by what they said, but I'm repeating accurately what they said. This thing here, though, I was just thinking about this as I was putting this slideshow together. The summary is the best way of demonstrating your understanding, is a good study technique. I read an article recently on the latest research. There's always articles on the latest research. The latest research on the most effective ways of learning. And it struck, from what I could read, it struck me as effective learning is kind of active learning, where you're sort of engaging in the material. And one of the things they said is part of this active learning is testing yourself. So as you're studying something, doing little kind of self-tests exercises to find out just how good your understanding is of the material. And those sort of exercises themselves is what best reinforces the material. I think then, if you've got like a chapter to read, so you've read a chapter for a class, and there's going to be a test on the chapter the next day in the class. An excellent technique would be for you to do, I would do it in writing, but you could do it also talking to yourself, maybe talking to a roommate, would be to summarize what you think the main points of the chapter are. Put into your words what you think the most important things of the chapter are. And that itself can be a great study device. Summary in APA writing is meant to be exactly that. It's demonstrating your understanding and also reinforces your understanding because you have internalized it. You've made those ideas part of your understanding of the world, and then you can show that by repeating them in your own words, the words you use to describe the world. Okay, the other distinctive feature of APA is the use of past tense. And if you look at the summary, at the assignment sheet, I'll ask you to use past tense. Now, this case here is a case of one of the places where the APA people are being inconsistent, and lately they've talked about how they're not going to be some people are not as strict about the past tense as they used to be before. I wish they didn't do things like that because it makes my job as a teacher harder. It's easier if you guys have a consistent rule. It's easier to teach students consistent rules. If there's always exceptions to it, those are harder to teach. I think for now, I don't think you can go wrong by using past tense in APA, and I will ask you to use past tense. I am asking you to use past tense in your research survey. That's the end of the slideshow. Yes, that's the end of the slideshow. Now what I want to do is a couple things I want to show you here. The first off is how the, let's see, I didn't have this quite prepared. Remind you again, your writer's reference, the APA section in your writer's reference, use that carefully. I know you guys have already had training in your 101 class on how to use citation, how to use your writer's reference as a guide for doing your citations. We will do some exercises this week on that for practice, but I just want to review here the what the book looks like. So if you go to APA 4, page 510 in the most recent edition, we've got APA 4A, which talks about how to do the in-text citations. So in your paragraphs, body paragraphs in the research survey, you're going to want them to follow this formatting. Now, basically it says basic format for a quotation here, number 1. We don't want that. What we want here is number 2. That's the main one you guys are going to be using. Basic format for a summary or paraphrase. And what I want you guys to do is this one up here, the using the in-text citation as the subject for the thesis sentence for the paragraph. So let's do the first sentence of the paragraph as the thesis sentence of the paragraph, captures the main point of the main point of the source, and use the in-text citation as your reference there. the notice this sentence here. Okay, can you see my cursor there? Oh, wow, that's exciting. You can do that. This sentence that begins there. Okay, a page. Oh, how did I do that? Okay, that one there. A page number is not required for a summary or a paraphrase, but include one if it would help the readers find the passage in a long route. Skip after the but. There's no page numbers needed in these summaries because you're summarizing, each paragraph is going to be summarizing the whole source, so you don't have to isolate particular page numbers because what you're talking about is with the whole source. So you'll have the in-text citation here with the author name and the number there, and no page number there. You don't need the page number. Okay, and so here, looking through this, we've got the different item numbers there for the different kinds of sources. When we get to APA 4B, this is the reference list. In APA it's called a reference list. The reference list entries, what they look like. The key here is finding what kind of source you're dealing with, and then which one of these item numbers. Like if you've got an article in a newspaper, is that what you're talking about? Now keep in mind here, when they say article in a newspaper there, they're talking about a hard copy of the newspaper. If it's an online newspaper, which chances are almost all of you guys are using, you go to this section here on online sources. If you're using the school databases, it's an article from a database. If you have the article from the newspaper, you're using number 32, article in an online newspaper. That's if you're going directly to the newspaper's website. If you got the newspaper article from a database like ProQuest or EBSCO, that's number 34 there, article from a database. Okay, so you use the APA 4B there for your entries in your works cited list. And then one last thing I want to show you at the end of my PDF here, I have the sample. So under APA 5, there's the sample paper there. If you take a look at my sample for the research survey, I'm using this alternative APA title page on page 549 there. It's a simpler version. I like it more. So I suggest you use the alternative APA title page. You don't have to. It's not absolutely required, but you can do that. And then here also is what the reference list looks like. It's not the alternative APA has a different header. Notice the header is more like it's on the right side, and it's a short version of the title, and then the page number there. So the header would be there, but then you have the title centered there, all the entries double spaced, no extra spaces. Right, and like I say, I'm pretty sure we're going to do some APA exercises starting today or tomorrow on this, so that'll be good practice for that. And then last thing I want to do is to show you exactly where the sample paper is. Make sure you look at the sample paper before you hand in the draft that's due on Friday. Again, this is what my world looks like here in Canvas. Keep in mind the best way, the most effective way to navigate the course is to use the modules here. Okay, so we go to the module there. All the correct due dates are in the module here. All the correct list of assignments are in the module. And I'm going to go down into third week module here. This is something I just posted yesterday in the sample research paper. I'm going to open this up and do sort of a quick look through it to show you what it looks like and what I want your paper to look like. Okay, so here's the cover page. Here's that header, the alternative APA style header. It looks like this. That's a short version of the title and the page number. Here's the cover. APA has a cover page. MLA does not have a cover page. APA has a cover page. You have the paper title there centered roughly in the middle of the page, and then this information centered towards the bottom of the page. Your name, the class name, my name, the due date of the paper. When you do the draft, you have one due date. That's the due date of the draft. When you revise the draft for your final paper, make sure you turn in and change the due date, make the due date for the final paper. Okay, we start the paper as a whole. The first header is not bolded. That's another difference between APA and MLA. APA has headers throughout the paper. In MLA, you only have headers if the paper's like at least 15 to 20 pages long. Only then would you have headers in it. APA, even a short APA paper, has a header in it. The first header is a repeat of the paper's title. Repeat of the paper's title, not bolded. And the introduction then sort of paints the picture of the controversy, sets the stage, lets the reader know what's at stake, why is it interesting, why is it important, draws the reader in. And the very last sentence here, no, not that, the last sentence here on, good, okay, the last sentence there of the overview paragraph there is a statement of purpose, letting the reader know what the paper is going to do. And in this statement of purpose, you can use phrases like, in this paper, I will, yada, yada, yada. You can also use first person in this paragraph here, too. You can't use first person in any of the summary paragraphs, but you can use first person in this paragraph. And you see the sample there is a survey of government documents, newspaper articles, and academic publications shows that this controversy is not going to soon die down, even in places where the stadiums have already been built. Wishful thinking. So that the overview paragraph at the beginning of the paper ends with a statement of purpose. This paper is going to whatever your paper is going to do. Now, I've in the assignment sheet, I've given you the exact outline that I want for this paper, and so like here we've got the controversy of city. Now the rest of the headers in the paper are bolded. Notice how this starts with an APA in-text citation, and this first sentence is a thesis statement for the source as a whole. Rosenberg 2012 reports on current difficulties that have arisen in the public funding for the new 49er Stadium in Santa Clara, and that potentially threaten the delay or even cancellation of the project. It turns out not to be. The thing got built, that's 2 years ago, and they're going to play in it next year. So that begins with a thesis statement, has an APA in-text citation, captures the main point of the source, and then the rest of the paragraph is filling out crucial items from the source to give the reader a sense of the most important things that were said in that source. Now we come to the next one. Now this is a tricky situation, and I've commented to at least one of you on your topic discussion, the controversy in other cities. For most of you, it's not too difficult to find another city that's having a similar problem to the one that you have. Like, for example, one student is writing about police brutality in Seattle, or issues of police brutality in Seattle. There's similar situations in cities all over the country, all over the world. So to find the controversy in another city there would not be too difficult. Some of you, however, though, have the kinds of issues that might be unique to that city, and it might be hard to find the controversy in other cities. Make sure you email me in the next couple days if you feel that that's your case, and I'll give you some extra help. Maybe we'll make a modification on the assignment there, give you some extra help with that. Okay, so there's the controversy in another city. We'll see it starts with, we've got a very long sentence. You can tell I wrote it. Oh no, that's not it. It's here. And here's the thesis sentence that starts with an APA in-text citation and captures the main point of the source. Okay, our next body paragraph, background of the controversy, background of the city, and now this leads us to the concluding remarks. Now the concluding remarks are exactly where your ideas come into play. So everything you've done before is just a summary of what the sources have said. Now is your turn to have an idea about it. Now is your turn to make some claims, possible claims, based on the evidence that you've read. Now it has to be carefully based on the evidence that you've read. Okay, the evidence that you presented. You can't present different ideas. You can't speak in this last paragraph. You can't say the same things. You can't say in this last paragraph what you would have said before you read the sources. You have to show. This shows your ideas, but your ideas have to be based on what the sources have said. Given what these sources have said, I think that the stadium controversy situation is still a big deal. And so in this, I kind of capture that idea right here. So, although there have been much local support for the building of the 49ers Stadium in Santa Clara, the issue of whether or not public funding of stadiums is a good idea should not, that's a typo, I love it to it, should not be considered settled. Okay, that's a very important typo there. That's terrible. Sorry about that. Okay, but notice also another feature here is that and this is going to be required, is referring back to each one of the sources. So there's a reference back to the one source, there's a reference back to another source. These are APA in-text citations. You have to be using that. There's the last source there. And the key here, and this is something I will comment on your drafts as an issue, is you want to refer back to the sources, but you don't want this paragraph to sound like you're repeating exactly what's been said before. This is a very tricky thing. It's something I will emphasize throughout all of your papers this quarter. Avoid repetitious conclusions. You don't want to be saying the exact same thing that you've already said. But at the same time, you still want to tie things together. You want to refer back to what's been said before, but in a way that doesn't sound repetitious. It's not easy to do, but it's a very important thing to do. And then finally, we've got the references page, and which is another place where you can go to look to make sure it's formatted correctly on that. Okay, so that's the end of this painfully long video. If you have any questions about any of this, please message me. Lately, I think I've been doing a pretty good job of keeping up on my messages, so message me before Friday, before the draft is due, and I will try to do my best to help you with the writing of it.